This was supposed to be simple. Move in, mourn in peace, maybe find my way back to photography. I didn't sign up for this. The house was quiet. Not the kind of quiet you get used to. The kind that hums at the edges, hollow and expectant. It smelled like dust and dry wood, and a hint of old lavender. Probably from the last tenant. Probably someone who liked doilies and silence. I'd only just gotten the boxes in. My entire life, reduced to 12 sad containers in a dented suitcase. I hadn't unpacked. I wasn't sure I wanted to. If I didn't touch anything, I could pretend this was temporary. Just a pause. Just recovery. The old lamp in the corner gave off the soft amber glow of dying light bulbs. I liked it. It made the room feel warmer than it actually was. I stood over the tiny stove, watching water simmer in a cheap pot. My first meal in the new place. Instant ramen. Classic. Familiar. Cheap. The kind of dinner you eat when you're either a college student or emotionally bankrupt. My phone buzzed once. Spam. No missed calls. Not that I expected any. After everything with Sam, most people had stopped reaching out. He told his version of the story first. Louder, prettier. I didn't even get to defend myself. One day, I was Jake the artist, and the next, I was Jake the bully. A social media villain in a hoodie. People love a villain. The water began to boil. I dumped the noodles in and stirred absently, zoning out to the soft hiss of bubbles. And then, the air changed. Like the pressure dropped. Like someone pressed a pillow to the atmosphere and held it there. I turned slowly. He was sitting on the kitchen counter. A guy, if you could even call him that. Barefoot, legs crossed, dressed in black like he'd walked out of a fashion editorial for the underworld. Ripped jeans, leather jacket, silver rings on every finger. His hair was dark, unkempt, and his skin looked almost too perfect. Like something digitally rendered. But it was his eyes that got me. Crimson, not glowing, not horror movie red. Just wrong. Wrong in a way that told me this person did not belong in kitchens, or on counters, or in my rental house at all. He tilted his head, smiled lazily. Your soul isn't broken enough to belong to me. Yet. I blinked. Then, completely disconnected from the panic that should have taken over my brain, I said, "Cool. Want some ramen anyway?" He blinked back. And laughed. Not a cackle. Not maniacal. Just a quiet, genuinely amused sound, like I'd just offered tea to a ghost. He hopped off the counter with cat-like grace, and landed soundlessly on the floor. "No," he said, brushing dust off his jacket. "I don't eat processed sodium." "Okay, snob," I muttered, turning back to my ramen. "You're in my kitchen. The least you could do is not insult dinner." "I'm in our kitchen," he corrected. I turned again. "Come again? You signed the lease." He gestured vaguely to the ceiling. "That technically gives you dominion over the property, which means the old contract reactivates." "What contract?" He ignored me, and opened a cabinet like he owned the place. I was hoping for at least one jar of peanut butter. Sad. "Who are you?" "Ren," he said simply. "Demon, Class 3. Bound to this location due to a residual emotional debt linked to the house's prior ownership." I stared at him. "You're... what?" "Summoned by accident. Happens more often than you'd think." He shut the cabinet, and gave me a once-over. "You're not even the tragic type. You just look like it." I tightened my grip on the spoon. "I think you should leave." He grinned. "I think I can't." "You broke in. Legally, I didn't. The house called me." "Oh, the house called you. You're a tenant. That makes you the current anchor." He strolled around the kitchen, trailing a finger across the dusty surface of the table. "Which means I live here now. This has to be some kind of dream," I mumbled. "Does it feel like a dream?" "Honestly, yes." My knees were jelly, my skin tingled from residual shock, and yet somehow I wasn't screaming. My therapist would say I'd numbed myself to trauma. Ren leaned against the fridge, arms folded. "You're not even going to ask what kind of demon I am?" "No," I said, deadpan, "because if I acknowledge this, I might have to move again, and I've just unpacked my kettle." He snorted, Fair enough. I watched him warily. He wasn't glowing. He didn't smell like sulfur. There was no pitchfork in sight. But he was also very much not human. Something in the way he held still, like a predator between strikes. What happens now? I asked. He smiled again. Now? I crash on your couch until the debt stabilizes. Which means, until the house stops grieving. That's not a thing, I said. Everything grieves, he replied. Even bricks. I didn't have an answer for that. So instead, I ladled ramen into a chipped bowl and took a bite. Ren watched me eat with the expression of someone observing a slow-moving zoo animal. After a long silence, he said, "You're not scared?" "No," I said around a mouthful. "I'm exhausted." "Better," he murmured, almost to himself. "Exhausted people are more honest." I set the bowl down. "You're really not going anywhere, are you?" "Nope." He kicked his boots off and dropped onto the couch like a prince reclaiming a throne. "Guess we're roommates now." I woke up to the sound of humming. Low, tuneless, self-satisfied humming. The kind that made you want to throw a pillow across the room. The couch was empty. Ren's boots were on the table though. So were 3 empty mugs, a silver ring, and, was that one of my socks? I rubbed my face. My head throbbed. And my back was in open rebellion against the couch's cushions. I hadn't meant to fall asleep last night, let alone let a demon stay overnight like a very opinionated sleep paralysis entity. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and sarcasm. Ren was there. Shirtless. In my kitchen, he wore only black sweatpants slung too low on his hips, flipping pancakes with one hand while scrolling through something on his conjured floating notebook with the other. There was steam curling in the air, sun flooding in through the cracked blinds, and his ridiculous red eyes glowing faintly in the morning light. "Oh," I said hoarsely. "You cook?" "I create," he corrected, flipping the pancake perfectly. "Cooking implies emotional investment." "I have none, and you're just shirtless?" He glanced over his shoulder. "Would you prefer if I wore yours?" "Because I will, Jake. And I won't ask." I turned around. Immediately. "Never mind," he laughed. A deep, low sound that curled under my skin. Too human of a reaction. "Either change your face or take off your shirt. Let's be fair." I walked straight to the bathroom. The shower did nothing to help my nerves. If anything, it made things worse. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw red. Red eyes. Red lips. Red heat flushing up my neck. When Ren looked at me like I was a particularly confusing puzzle he was almost interested in solving. I was not used to being looked at like that. Not anymore. By the time I got out, Ren had put on a black tank top and was lounging dramatically across the couch with my camera in his hands. I froze in the doorway. "Don't touch that." He didn't even look up. "You left it lying around." "It's a professional tool. It's dusty. It's vintage. It's tragic," he said, finally glancing at me. "Like most of your aesthetic." I crossed the room, snatched it from his hands, and checked the lens. "Relax," he said. I didn't curse it, though I thought about it. I ignored him, and set it carefully on my desk in the corner. The light was good this morning, soft but angled, so I moved to adjust the curtains and started setting up a shot. Behind me, I could feel Ren watching. "You're doing it wrong," he said. "I didn't ask for input." "Your shadows are lazy," he continued. "Like your posture." I turned. "Excuse me?" He gestured lazily. "This whole setup is emotionally inert. Your composition lacks tension." I blinked at him. "Since when are you an art critic?" "Since always. I've existed longer than photography. Or shadows. Or posture for that matter." "Maybe I like my sad shadows," I snapped. "At least they're mine." That shut him up. He tilted his head, and for a second, he actually looked at me. Not with mockery. Not like I was entertainment. But like I'd said something unexpected. Something real. The moment passed quickly. He stood and stretched, which unfairly took up half the room, then wandered toward the fridge. "We need food." I blinked. "What do you mean we? I mean the fridge is pathetic. You have condiments and anxiety in there. I'm not your grocery boy. And I'm not your spiritual life coach, yet here we are. I opened my mouth. Closed it. Fine. Grocery run today. But you don't eat human food. I don't, he said, rooting around in the cabinet. But I like options. And coffee. You drink coffee? I inhale coffee. I practically invented the bean. I snorted. Right. And you'll be cooking it, he added. You mean, making it, whatever. I turned to grab my bag, muttering, You are the worst supernatural squatter I've ever heard of. Oh baby, he said. You have no idea how low the bar actually is. We didn't make it to the grocery store. We didn't make it past the front door. Because the moment I grabbed my keys and stepped out, the woman from the house next door, auburn hair, perfect yoga pants, holding a tiny dog that looked like it judged for a living, was suddenly at my side. Oh hi, she said, too brightly. You must be the new tenant. I froze. Yeah. Jake, I'm Marissa, she beamed. Welcome to the street. It's so quiet here, right? Peaceful. She said it like a warning. That's good, I said carefully. Her eyes flicked to the doorway behind me, where Ren leaned lazily against the frame, sipping black coffee from a mug that wasn't mine. And, who's your friend? She asked, voice sharpening slightly. Ren smiled. Slowly. Roommate. Marissa's smile twitched. Temporary, I'm sure. Indefinite, Ren replied, swirling the mug with theatrical boredom. She looked at me again. All sugar. Well, if you ever need anything. We all look out for each other on this street. Thanks, I said. Somehow both grateful and threatened. When we got back inside, I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath the whole time. Is she always like that? I asked. Humans are territorial, Ren said simply. Especially the ones who pretend not to be. I think she hates you. She doesn't know me well enough to hate me, he said. But she will. Back inside, we argued about chores. It started with the dishes. You ate the last of the noodles, I said. So you washed the bowl. You offered, he replied, lazily flipping through one of my photo albums. That makes it a gift. It makes it shared responsibility. I'm a demon, not a dishwasher. Fine, I muttered, standing. I'll do it. I turned the tap angrily. Ren didn't say anything for a moment, but then, quietly, You get like this a lot? Like what? Angry when people don't behave the way you want them to. I froze. Then I laughed. Bitter. No, I said. I get angry when people don't behave the way they pretend they will. He didn't answer that. Just kept flipping pages. Later, as I sat on the floor editing photos, I caught him watching me. You're more interesting than you look, he said. And you're more exhausting than you look, I muttered. He smirked. Mutual surprise then. Some ghosts don't need chains or moaning halls. Some come with a ringtone, and a name you deleted 5 times already. I was editing photos in the corner of the living room, the soft buzz of my computer filling the silence like white noise. The afternoon sun filtered through the blinds, golden and heavy. It bathed the room in that warm kind of light that makes everything look better than it really is. But I didn't feel better. I felt raw. The kind of raw that has nothing to do with skin and everything to do with memory. Ren was stretched out on the couch behind me, absently spinning one of his rings on the tip of his finger. He hadn't spoken in almost 20 minutes, which might have been a record. And for once, I appreciated the silence. Until my phone buzzed. Once. Twice. Pause. Then again, I glanced at it, just to clear the notification. And froze. Sam, hey, can we talk? 3 little dots followed. Typing, then nothing. My throat closed. I stared at the screen like it had punched me. Ren's voice broke the stillness, sharp and too close. What's the matter? Nothing, I said quickly, locking the phone and flipping it over. He was already leaning over the back of my chair, red eyes glowing faintly. Liar, don't. He snatched the phone before I could stop him. The screen lit up again in his hand. Another message. Sam, I've been thinking about everything. I miss you, man. I didn't mean for it to go down like that. Ren read it in silence. Then flatly, he didn't apologize. He's just bored. Give it back. He's not sorry, Jake. He just hates feeling ignored. I said, give it back. Ren raised an eyebrow and tossed the phone onto the desk. I sat there, frozen. My fingers were clenched around the mouse, the muscles in my arm rigid. My chest felt like it was being compressed by a steel band. He ruined everything, I whispered. Ren didn't answer. He told everyone it was me, that I'd posted those photos, that I harassed that girl, that I'd faked it for clout. I turned to face him, and they believed him. Everyone. He got to walk away clean. He got sympathy. I was shaking now, my voice rising against my will. Ren watched me quietly. I lost clients, friends, my reputation, and all I ever did, my voice cracked, was trust the wrong person. I stood up too fast. The chair skidded behind me. He gets to show up now? Say, hey, can we talk like this is high school, and he forgot to return a hoodie? My hand slammed against the desk. Ren's ring stopped spinning. You think I'm weak? I demanded. Is that what this whole soul not broken enough thing is about? You think I'm pathetic? Still, Ren said nothing. I turned away. My chest was heaving. I grabbed the coffee mug off the table and threw it against the sink. It shattered with a scream of ceramic. Pieces scattered across the floor like broken punctuation. I'm tired, Ren. I shouted. Tired of carrying everything like it's my fault. Tired of pretending I don't care. Tired of fighting for space in my own skin. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was dense, thick with unspoken words and the sting of adrenaline. When I looked back at him, Ren wasn't smirking. He wasn't lounging, or mocking, or rolling his eyes. He looked still, not shocked, just focused, eyes trained on me like he was seeing something he hadn't before. I didn't say you were weak, he said softly. I blinked. I said you weren't ready. He stepped forward, slow and deliberate. Maybe I was wrong. I swallowed hard. Why do you care? Ren didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked past me, not touching, not invading, and crouched near the broken mug. He picked up one of the larger pieces, examined it under the light. Humans break in the same ways, he said quietly. Over and over. But sometimes one of them surprises me. He stood, dropped the shard gently into the trash, and turned to me. You surprised me. I couldn't breathe. He wasn't glowing. He wasn't monstrous. But he looked dangerous in a different way now, like someone who could see right through you, and didn't hate what he saw. My shoulders sagged. I sat back down, suddenly exhausted. Ren moved to the doorway, paused, and then said over his shoulder, If you want to block him, do it. If you want to burn your phone, I'll help. I let out a shaky laugh. But if you reply, he added, I'll gut your Wi-Fi. That got a real laugh out of me. Small, but real. Ren disappeared down the hall, his footsteps silent. I sat there for a long time, staring at the cracked screen of my phone. Then I deleted Sam's number. For the 6th, and last, time. The lights went out during dinner. 1 second the room was bathed in warm yellow glow, the next, darkness. Not full black, but dim enough to feel wrong. The refrigerator hummed, then sighed into silence. My laptop screen flickered, then died. Outside, thunder rolled low and distant. Ren raised an eyebrow from across the room where he'd been draped like royalty over the couch, sipping black coffee. The candle I kept for emergencies flickered to life in my hands. Power outage? He asked, unconcerned. No. I deadpanned. I just decided to unplug reality for fun. He smirked. Finally. Chaos. I set the candle on the coffee table, lighting another one beside it. The soft flames made the room glow in amber waves, catching on the lines of his jaw, the faint shine of his eyes. Rain began to tap softly at the windows, a quiet percussion in the hush. Well, I muttered. Guess it's a low-tech night. Ren didn't move. You should have expected it. This house is old. Sensitive. I thought demons were into fire and storms. We are, he said. but not paying utility bills. I grabbed a blanket from the armchair and sat on the floor with a flashlight, flipping through one of my photo books. My camera sat beside me, fully charged at least. I considered documenting the candlelight, the shadows, the strange hush that fell between thunder rumbles, but Ren was already watching me, like he always was. "You're going to sleep here tonight?" he asked. "Where else would I sleep?" He gestured lazily to the corner. "The floor. Or maybe the bathtub. You strike me as a tragic bath sleeper." "Do I?" "You carry your sadness like it's an accessory, and you carry your ego like it's couture." He grinned. There was a beat of silence. "There's only one couch," I said finally. "Observation," he replied. "We're both not sleeping on the floor." "Agreed. So..." He stretched, deliberately slow, like a cat preparing to claim a sunlit spot. "We're adults. I don't bite." I gave him a look. "Not unless asked." "Ren." He chuckled. "Fine. We'll share." We arranged ourselves on opposite ends of the couch like two magnets forced too close together. Ren threw one arm over the backrest, legs stretched out, taking up half the space like he owned it. Which, technically, he might have. Demon loopholes and all that. I pulled the blanket tighter around myself and stared at the ceiling. The candlelight danced on the walls. The rain softened. The world became muffled, like someone had pressed a pillow to its mouth. I could feel his warmth next to me. Not hot, not fire, but something else. A quiet presence that edged just inside my space without breaching it. "You're still awake," he said. "So are you. Do you always stare at ceilings when you're avoiding things?" "Yes." "Effective." We were quiet for a while. Just rain and breath. My fingers curled into the fabric of the blanket. I didn't look at him when I asked, "Why don't you sleep?" Ren didn't answer immediately. Then, softly, "We don't, usually. Too much noise in the head. But you're quiet now." His voice came slower, lower. "Maybe it's the rain, or maybe it was something else." I closed my eyes. Eventually I heard his breathing shift, steady, deeper. His body stilled, no more smart remarks, no slow finger tapping, just stillness. And then, a whisper. "Barely there. Don't disappear again." My eyes snapped open. I didn't move, didn't breathe. He said nothing else. I wasn't even sure he knew he'd said it. I turned my head just enough to look at him. His face was relaxed, too relaxed for Ren, whose every movement was usually sharp and calculated. In sleep, he looked young. Not fragile, never that, but unguarded. And whatever he was seeing behind his closed eyes, it made his fingers twitch. I wanted to touch him, not in the way he teased me about, just to anchor him. To say, "You're still here. I see you." I didn't. But I didn't look away either. Eventually, sleep crept in like mist under a door. I let it take me. Morning came in soft gold through the windows. The candles had burned out, leaving faint trails of wax on the table. The rain had stopped. The world was still wet, but clearer somehow. Fresher. Ren was still there. I blinked groggily, shifting slightly. My arm had gone numb. Something heavy and warm pressed against my side. His leg? His knee rested against mine, casually draped, as if we'd always slept like that. I didn't move. And then, his hand brushed mine. Light. Barely a graze. I tensed. But he didn't pull back. Instead, his fingers stayed close. Not touching, but near enough that I could feel the warmth of his skin. My chest ached in a way I hadn't expected. Ren stirred. His eyes didn't open, but he murmured, half asleep, "Still here?" "Yeah," I whispered. He didn't reply, but his fingers shifted, and just for a second, touched mine. Soft. Intentional. He rolled away a moment later, muttering something about the couch being too short, and got up. But the touch stayed with me. All morning. The morning light was perfect. The kind of light that makes everything feel like a dream. Golden, low, catching and floating dust like stars trapped in amber. I set up the shot carefully, adjusting the tripod in the corner of the living room. My camera clicked softly as I tested the frame. Empty couch, the candles from the outage, a forgotten mug. I looked through the lens. Something was missing. "Don't move," I said, barely thinking. Ren had just stepped into the edge of the frame, shirtless again, sipping from a cup of something too dark to be tea. He looked at me like I'd spoken another language. "I'm not your model," he said. "Just stay still," I murmured. "I want to remember this." He didn't answer. But he didn't move either. I took the photo. One click. Just one. And yet, it felt like I'd taken something from him. Like I'd seen too much. Or maybe just enough. I lowered the camera. "Do you always take pictures of people you don't understand?" he asked. "Only when I want to," I replied. He took a slow sip and didn't look away. "Why are you still here?" I asked suddenly. He blinked. "That's a loaded question. The contract's nearly closed, isn't it?" He didn't deny it. "That's why you're restless. I can feel it." I set the camera down. "You've been pacing more. Talking less. Observant," he said, too lightly. "You're going to disappear." "No," he said, almost too quickly. "I'm going to be removed." I felt my stomach turn. "I thought I was the anchor," I said. "Don't I get a say?" "Not unless you're the one paying the debt." "But I'm the one feeling it," I snapped. "Isn't that enough?" A pause. Something dark and unreadable crossed his face. "You feel a lot of things, Jake," he said softly. "That doesn't make them binding." I didn't have a reply. Instead, I turned, started to walk toward the kitchen, to hide in motion. His voice stopped me. "Why do you always pull away when it matters?" I froze. "You let people get close, then flinch when they do." I swallowed. "That's not true." He took a step toward me. "Then tell me to stop." I turned around. He was right in front of me, closer than he should have been. His presence pressed against mine, not like a weight, but like heat, like fire just shy of burning. I didn't move. He lifted a hand and touched my jaw. When he was in front of me, I didn't look away. "Why are you here?" I asked. "Because I didn't want to leave before I had you." I felt that word land, heavy, unshaken. "Ren." He didn't wait for me to finish. He leaned in, pressed his mouth to mine. It wasn't a question. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't violent either. It was intentional, like everything Ren did. A kiss made of shadows and tension, of everything unsaid, of everything I'd refused to look at for weeks. My breath caught. I didn't kiss him back, but I didn't pull away. My hands stayed at my sides. His hand lingered on my jaw for a moment longer. "Tell me to stop," he said again. I didn't. I couldn't. Not because I wanted it, not entirely, but because my body didn't know the difference between fear and longing anymore. His hand slid to my face, then down my arms, like he was checking if I was real, or breakable. My breath caught, but I didn't speak. He guided me backward, slow, not hesitating once. When my legs hit the bed, I didn't stop him. I didn't help. But I didn't say no. He pushed the camera gently off the mattress and laid me down in its place. I wanted to say no, but the word never made it past my throat. My body stayed quiet. The silence between us pressed in like smoke, invisible, but heavy. Ren undressed like someone who didn't care about permission, only reaction. And I let him. He touched my body like it was already his. Every movement was deliberate, practiced, and almost cruel in its precision. Not to hurt, but to remind me who was in control. His lips dragged along my jaw. His hands moved with purpose. My own stayed limp at my sides. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't sure if I wanted this, or just didn't know how to stop it. The room blurred around the edges. My thoughts thinned out to skin, to breath, to pressure. He didn't ask for anything. He just took. And when it was over, he didn't say a word. He lay beside me for a while. Quiet. Staring at the ceiling. I felt hollow. Not in pain. Not in shock. I turned my head. He was already standing again, bare-chested, calm, the softness gone from his eyes. The space beside me felt cold. "You're really going, aren't you?" I said, voice barely a whisper. He nodded once. I shouldn't have done that, he said. Then, quieter. But I wanted to. No explanations. No goodbye. And then, he vanished. Not in a puff of smoke. Not with a sound. Just gone. The house stopped breathing. I felt it in the walls. In the stillness. The air had lost weight. Not lighter, not heavier. Just flat. Like something essential had been taken out. I walked from room to room. Not sure what I was looking for. His coffee mug was still there. The blanket we'd shared. The candle he claimed he didn't light, but always somehow did. And on my camera? The photo. The one I'd taken just hours earlier. Before everything. He stood in the frame like something sacred and completely unreachable. Like a ghost who hadn't decided if he wanted to haunt or protect. I zoomed in. His eyes weren't on the camera. They were on me. There was no smile. But there was knowing. And that was worse. I stared at that image until nightfall. Until the house felt like it had swallowed me whole. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat there, breathing as quietly as I could, afraid the silence might answer back. And for the first time in years, I admitted something I hadn't wanted to say out loud. I didn't want to be alone anymore. Not in this house. Not in my skin. Not in this life. He came back in the middle of a thunderstorm. No knock. No fanfare. No apology. Just a shape in the doorway, soaked to the bone, shivering from something that wasn't cold. I didn't breathe. For a second, I thought I was dreaming, that I'd finally cracked. That the silence of the house had folded in on itself, and conjured him from memory. But no, it was him. Ren. And he looked wrong. His edges flickered like bad reception. Static hummed faintly around him, like the air was rejecting him. Every few seconds his outline blurred, and he'd flinch like he'd been punched in the ribs. The system's forcing me out, he said through clenched teeth. The contract's closing on its own. I stepped toward him. Then make a new one. He staggered back a step. It doesn't work like that. Why not? Because you're not the one who signed the first deal, Jake. You weren't the debtor. You're just what's left. I kept walking until I was inches away. I don't care about the old rules. You don't know what you're asking. I know exactly what I'm asking, I said. My voice didn't shake. I don't want you to go. His eyes searched mine, full of conflict. Guilt. Fear, maybe. But behind it all, hope curled in on itself like something he'd forgotten how to hold. This wasn't your choice, he said, softer now. I was bound to this place, to its pain, to its unfinished grief. That's why I stayed. I know, I said. And now the grief's gone. I nodded. And, you're still asking me to stay? Yes. He stared at me, his breath uneven. This house doesn't need me anymore. I do, I said. A pause. He didn't blink. Then slowly, like the words cost him everything. You're sure? I'm not yours by debt, I whispered. But I want to be yours by choice. Another pause. A longer one. Then, he laughed. It wasn't cruel. It was real. A breathless, stunned, too human sound that cracked something open between us. And then he said, finally, the air shifted. There was no lightning, no sigils, no magic surge, just a warm, deep silence, and a quiet snap, like something settling, like a puzzle piece finding its place. He stepped forward and touched my face. Do you know what this means? We didn't stay in that house. Too many memories. Too many ghosts. Too many versions of ourselves folded into the floorboards. So we found another place, smaller, brighter, with windows so wide the light spilled in like it couldn't help itself. We moved in on a Tuesday. It rained in the morning, then cleared just in time for golden hour. Ren hated the neighborhood. Too quiet. Too polite. Too human. I'm going to haunt the HOA, he muttered as he unpacked, holding a packet of coffee, like it had personally offended him. You say that like it's not a felony. It's a promise. He claimed the guest bedroom, but never used it. Most nights, he ended up on the couch, then in my bed, then sprawled across both like he was trying to occupy every surface I'd ever touched. I didn't mind. He still critiqued my photos. "You lean into melancholy too hard," he said one evening, flipping through prints. Says the demon. Exactly. You should listen to your target audience. We bickered about light bulbs and pasta shapes, and how many candles in a room was too many. His answer: there is no such number. He was annoying, loud, unfiltered, and exactly what I'd chosen. A week after we moved in, I caught him standing barefoot in the morning light, squinting at the window. His skin glowed gold. His hair was messy, curled at the edges from sleep. There was coffee in his hand, and irritation in his expression. "Why is this sunlight so cheerful?" he muttered. "It's called not living in a haunted house anymore." I feel personally attacked by this optimism. I raised my camera without thinking. He narrowed his eyes. "Don't. Just one, Jake. Stay still." I clicked the shutter. He groaned. "You're still annoyingly sentimental. You're still arrogant." He set the coffee down, walked over, looked down at me, mouth twitching into something halfway between a sneer and a smile. "You're worse," he said. "You're a photographer with opinions, and now you live with him." He leaned in, just enough to bump our foreheads together. "I guess I do." I smiled, because the light was perfect. And for once, so was everything else.